Hello, and welcome back to Week 8 of Season 2 of our Pokemon Battle League. This is not Coach Casey of the Seafoam Island Squirtle Squads. This is his opponent, Ian of the Mahogany Town Mews, doing commentary in Casey's stead. Hope I can live up to your expectations that you had for him, and let's just get right into this battle. So it is going to be a tad bit confusing because I'm going to be on the reverse end of where I would normally be while commentating, but I'll try to not fuck it up. So he is going to send out his Undefined here, the type Null, while I'm going to bring out my Goodra. I know that this thing likes to set up Sword Stance a lot, and even though I could do a lot of damage with just like some kind of special attack, I do switch out into my There Is No God, the Quillfish, to get that Intimidate off, knowing that he can't really do anything much to me without boosting up a lot. He does go for the Thunder Wave anyway, so I don't take any damage, but this Thunder Wave actually really bones me throughout the entire match. So it actually does way more than you'd think it would on a tank. So he's just going to U-turn out of there. He knows he can't do much, and you have to set up like forever. It does almost nothing. I think it did 8 damage. And the first case of bonage here, I am paralyzed on the switch. I was going to go for a Liquidation. It would have hit this Mew pretty hard. But I know he's probably going to go for like a Psychic or an Earth Power maybe. So I'm going to switch into my Sableye here, who takes not very much from any of Mew's attacks off the base. I brought Sableye specifically here to combat Mew, assuming that he was going to be like a double dance set with Psychnium or Immunium Z and maybe some kind of coverage move. But he actually ended up bringing what I assume is just 4 attacks Mew, and so he actually does have the Dazzling Gleam, which sucks. So Sableye's not going to do very much to this Mew anymore. I did prevent him from setting up if he did have a setup move, but it's actually nice that he has the Dazzling Gleam, because that means he probably doesn't have enough coverage to totally sweep me if he does end up setting up. So I don't really have to fear that anymore, so I'm just going to switch out into Zapdos here, maybe saving my Sableye for a switch in later. But he is going to switch out his Mew, fearing like a Thunderbolt or something, and he goes into his Nidoqueen, and just trying to play it safe, I do go for the Thunderbolt. So she's just going to absorb that pretty well. Right here, I believe, yeah, I end up going for the Roost because I know I'm going to be faster unless she's choiced. And so I end up healing my 12 or HP or whatever it was, just to see if she'd go for an Ice Beam, and she does. So losing my flying typing from the Roost, I do get to take that better than I would have. And I know that I can actually survive one at full HP now, as it did less than half without my flying, without my flying type. So I'm just going to switch into my Sableye here, take what I thought would be another Ice Beam and die, but it ended up being a Sludge Wave that killed me. And Sableye's, he's useful here, but I have 2 checks to his physical attackers, so it's fine. Sableye dying does let me bring in my Weavile for free, and I know I can scare this thing out with pretty much anything. Even like a knockoff would do a lot of damage to this guy. But Casey does end up switching out into his type Null again. As I just go for the Icicle Crash, I'd rather just kill the Nidoqueen if she stays in than knock off the Eviolite if type Null comes in. And it actually does about 40% damage, and I'm just going to switch back in my Quillfish here because there's no reason not to at all, which is part of the reason I still didn't go for the knockoff too. So we get the Intimidate off, he goes for the Thunder Wave again. I'm already paralyzed because we already did this once. And he's going to U-turn out there again. And just like last time, I was just planning to go for a Liquidation, just try to hit this thing, try to lower its defenses, and just be a pain in the ass for it. He does switch out into Nidoqueen. I don't think he did. Yeah, last time he switched out into Mew. But I'm not going to be paralyzed this time. I'm going to hit the Nidoqueen really hard with a Stab Liquidation. Does about 75% of its HP, and I know I still can't take an Earth Power from this thing, so I'm going to switch out into Zapdos, hoping to try to catch that immunity. But she does go for Thunderbolt, which actually would have killed me as well. But my investment does let me survive the Thunderbolt, which is nice. And I know I can still outspeed, so there's no reason not to go for a Roost here. Roosting, once again, removes my flying type, so I know I can take an Ice Beam if he's going to go for it. and he does go for it. And it actually does less than half of my HP, so the fact that it does less than half and the fact that I have leftovers means that I'm actually going to be gaining about a 1/16 of my HP every turn. So I figured, yeah, I'll just do this a few times, because why not? Maybe he'll switch out. Oh wait, just kidding, that's not what I did at all this time. I went for the Hidden Power Ice, knowing that I could still outspeed and try to take it out. And it doesn't hit type null almost at all. So this is where I start going for the roost again. Knowing I can still outspeed, I can't be paralyzed by this thing, and if it sets up, then I'll just fight it, I guess. He goes for the Thunder Wave. I think Casey was saying that he thought that you could paralyze Zapdos, but I think it was in Gen 6 or 7 that electric types became immune to paralysis and fire types became immune to burns. So it wasn't the case beforehand, so maybe he was on like an older form that was asking. But I'm not really sure. He ends up going for the Rock Slide though, and I'm pretty naturally bulky, so it doesn't do a lot even without the flying type being taken away. So that does let me just roost up to almost full again, as he goes for a Rest, which is a huge dick move. And that's going to put him at full, put him to sleep. And it's really disappointing because I think I could have taken him out with another Thunderbolt there. But we're both at almost 100% HP, and I am just going to switch out here because I know he's going to be asleep for 2 turns, and pretty sure he doesn't have like a Sleep Talk set. So I switch out into Weavile again here, hoping that he's not going to just switch out, and even if he did, it would be a fine switch for me. So I bring in Weavile, hoping to knock off this thing's Eviolite, and I do. Which means that it's going to have about half the defenses as it did before, which is good because this thing is a big asshole. I contemplate going for another knockoff here, knowing that it'll do about the same amount of damage since the item is gone, which means the knockoff will do less, but the item is gone, so his defenses are lowered. But I ended up just bringing in Quillfish here, knowing that he's probably going to wake up in the next turn unless he switch out, which he ends up doing. He switches into Scizor, and just immediately goes for the U-turn, as he didn't anticipate my switch as well. It's good that he switched out for me because I'd rather come in and intimidate the Scizor before it can have a chance to do anything. But once again, I am paralyzed here for the second time, and that would have just made a liquidation hit once more. He does wake up and he goes for the Rock Slide. Doesn't do a lot of damage. I'm motherfucking Quillfish, and I'm paralyzed for the 3rd time, 2nd time in a row. So you know that's cool. But like these things happen, so it's not a big deal. It just sucks and doesn't help me out at all. So it goes for the U-turn again, and this guy's getting hit by the U-turns all day from not even the same Pokemon every time. But he's going to go out into his Scizor again here as I go for the liquidation, finally breaking through the paralysis. And it hits it for a little bit, but it actually gets the defense drop. So I guess a couple of those paralyses are even now. Maybe not all of them, but like maybe 2. So he goes for the Sword Stance, which is really scary because I can't switch myself in to get the Intimidate off. So I just go for the Liquidation again, knowing I can still take an attack. And with the defense drop from the previous Liquidation, it's going to do a lot more damage, and he can definitely be taken out this next time. He goes for the Bug Bite, which does a lot more damage, and I end up getting off the last Liquidation, which is going to take this thing out. Had I not been paralyzed, I believe I would have outsped the last time, so I would have been ahead one more step in the turn, and I would have been able to take that thing out before it hit me down to this much HP. So it might have been different if he didn't get the paralysis off early, so that was a really good play for him in the beginning. He goes for the Focus Blast here on the Quillfish. I'm not really sure who he thought was going to be coming in, but it misses either way. It wouldn't have done that much damage to me in the first place. So I go for a Heat Wave, assuming he would switch, but if he did stay in, it would still do some damage. And I end up missing, so I guess that's even too. So he has his Type Null in here, and I just go for Thunderbolt, just trying to do max damage as he goes for Rock Slide, doing the same thing. It brings me down to about half, a little more after the leftovers, and he's got about a 5th left. As again, I go for the Heat Wave, assuming that it'll take out either type Null if he stays in, or the Nidoqueen if he switches her back in. And it does connect, so it takes out the type Null, and that's a really big problem going from my side. Here he brings out his Lopunny, the Mega Lopunny, and I switch out into Quillfish, just trying to get the Intimidate drop. I know that he's probably going to fake out the first turn, just try to get some extra damage out. And I could have left Zapdos in to get the extra 30% chance that it paralyzes itself by touching him. But I figured I'd just switch into Quillfish immediately on the off chance that he goes for like an Ice Punch. And it would have done about the same amount of damage as the Fake Out, actually, because it's non-stab. And I actually resist that. So I take the Fake Out, and then he just has a chance to kill me with his return. I really want to do the damage calc to see how much that would have done at -1, because Quillfish took almost nothing from this thing. And it was my main counter to Lopunny, but he got knocked down too low. So I bring in my Zapdos again, and he goes for the return and doesn't get the paralysis on me, touching me, which sucks. But I do get a crit here, which probably didn't matter, because it's going to take 2 attacks to kill it anyway, so it's not like doing half the damage would have mattered, because it still would have taken 2 attacks, assuming that it was a somewhat similar roll of the dice. But I make a questionable play and I switch into Weavile. I assume he's just going to keep going for the return, and I'm pretty sure I can take one of those. I didn't calc it, but I was pretty sure. And I know I want to save my Zapdos for the Azumarill, so I do switch into Weavile. If he'd gone for like a high jump kick, I would have just lost the game right here. But thankfully I do survive that, and I'm able to KO with the Ice Shard as he brings in his Azumarill on the next turn. Which is a really good call. I can't do anything to this thing, and he probably doesn't know it, but I am choiced, so I can't even hit it with a knockoff or anything. So that lets him get up the free Belly Drum. Unfortunately, his set was not set for an even amount of HP, so he doesn't get the Citrus Berry off of the Belly Drum itself. But that lets him go for an Aqua Jet on the Zapdos, which thankfully gets the static. Not that it should have happened, it's only a 30% chance, but it has been hit about 3 times, I believe, in this match, so statistically, I don't know, the first times were, not that, I'm just talking shit right now, there's no reason it should have happened, but out of the 3 times you would think it would happen once. But the static allows me to bring in my Goodra, who can go for the Sludge Wave now that it's faster, and I can KO it with the Sludge Wave, and he brings in his Mew here to hit the Goodra with super effective Devastating Gleam, but Goodra is crazy defensive, so I can go for a Sludge Wave after taking almost no damage. I end up getting the poison, which really sucks because Mew has a Synchronize ability, so I kind of poison myself even though I'm a big goo monster. You'd think I'd be like made of poison or something. But that's actually going to hurt me really bad. It does a lot of damage after a while, because he's going to switch into his Nidoqueen here, and Goodra is also choiced, so I can't switch my move. So Sludge Wave against a Poison and Ground type is going to do almost nothing. I don't think I would even KO it in 3 hits here, as the Poison's just going to take me down even lower, and he's going to go for an Ice Beam, which is obviously going to KO after I hit it with one more Sludge Wave. So here comes the Ice Beam. That's going to take me out. It probably would have taken me out even without the poison doing that much damage. It would have at least taken 2, or at most taken 2. But anyway, it's going to let me switch into Weavile here, and he's going to be able to sweep the rest of them with his speedy knockoff. I might have been able to switch in Weavile and the Ice Beam. I'd have to count that to see, but it's possible I could have switched him in, but I knew that if I predicted wrong, or if he couldn't take that Ice Beam, it would have lost me the game, because I knew Weavile to outspeed these last 2. But either way, it was a really good game. There were some chances of hacks happening the entire game, like paralysis hacks on my side kind of sucked, and obviously it sucked that his Azumarill was paralyzed by the static, because none of those are like probable to happen in the match. But overall, I think it was pretty even on both sides. I mean, I got that crit, he got 3 paralyses, I got the static, and I don't think he crit me once. But yeah, it was a really good game, and Casey has a horrifying team. I actually brought all 3 of my OUs for the first time, I believe, in the entire season. And I had to bring 2 of my biggest defensive checks. So it was a really good game, and it was a bitch and a half to plan for. And I hope Casey had a good time as well. And yeah, I hope we'll get to battle again in the what's it called? Playoffs, semifinals, or whatever it is. I know I say that to everybody, but like I genuinely do want to battle everybody again because I really like these teams. And if not, I mean, I assume he'll be coming back for next season, so it'll be a good time. And let me see who Casey battles so I can keep you up to date with him because this is supposed to be his battle. Casey next week is battling in week 9, Lavender Town Lillipups, Coach Amber. So that'll be a really good battle. I actually kind of want to watch that one. And I will be battling Jake, assuming that his injuries are not too much. Hopefully he's getting better, and he'll be up on his feet soon. But in the meantime, please go watch the rest of our videos, and have a good week. I will talk to you next time.